Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders, a safe space for women to thrive in community where their voices and stories are heard. We're a sisterhood supporting each other to live our dreams and embody the sacred feminine to restore balance on our planet. Join us each week as we return to the unconditional love and guidance of our heart and our womb. I'm your host, Meredith Ram, and I invite you to walk this path of beauty, devotion, and service with us. Before we dive into this episode, I wanted to let you know that I am leading a master class, a live online class with our guest who you'll be hearing about today, Jessica Bose. The webinar is called The Consciousness of Wealth, and it's a way to support all of us to elevate our frequency around money. The live class is going to be Monday, May 13th. 2024, 12 p.m. Pacific time. But we're also going to be sharing the replay. So we'll include the link in the show notes. It's courses.meredithram.com/wealth. And we're going to be sharing the 5 levels of consciousness that prevent us from earning and enjoying wealth, how to heal inherited ancestral wounds around money, apply practical and spiritual solutions to elevate our consciousness around money, and to learn an energetic alignment process to shift our frequency to a new level of abundance. Jessica's also going to be sharing more about the Luminous Method to spiritually and energetically align with our desires. So we hope to see you there. You can find all the info in the show notes. I'm here today with Jessica Bose. She is passionate about guiding others on the spiritual path of self-mastery while living in a modern world. As the creator of the Luminous Method, a manifestation practice for co-creating your soul's desires, she helps others transform their lives by unleashing the divine within and energetically aligning with their desires. So excited to have you here, Jessica, and also excited to be leading a master class with you, which is coming up. We're going to lead it live May 13th. It's called The Consciousness of Wealth. So we'll include the link to that in the show notes. And if it's after that date and you're listening, you'll be able to watch the replay. So you can check that out. And yeah, it's been so fun getting to know you. We've been meeting at, every week for the past couple of weeks preparing for the class. Welcome. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
So yeah, we first connected before the pandemic. You did a coaching program with me, which I'm not sure how you found my work. Was it through the podcast?
Oh, I think it was through Insight Timer. I did like a meditation, a guided meditation from you, and I wanted to know more about you. So then I, clicked the links and, found some information about you. And I was like, wow, she's like, kind of sounds just what I need right now to help me grow and really get my voice out there at the time. Yeah.
Oh, that's so amazing. Every once in a while I meet someone who found me on Insight Timer. Just like innocently put some meditations up there a long time ago, maybe like 10 years ago. And yeah, they tend to spread. So it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you, my first question is just what were you like as a child? Because I have a feeling that you were highly sensitive. I don't know if you consider yourself empathic, but I'm curious just like what you were like as a child. When did you start to notice that like something's a little different? Like I'm a little different than my family.
I remember noticing it right away. I was very, very small, overly sensitive. Like even my mom mentions, that even just after I was born, every little noise bothered me, and I was just very highly sensitive. And I do remember even before going into like kindergarten and thinking like I had this like I almost felt like I was older than I was, and that I remember thinking that a lot of the people around me was like they're doing things differently or wrong, or they're not, how can they not see it? And I just remember thinking, how do I know this stuff? Or I remember thinking that you could create things way easier than people were creating, like the adults around me. And just, how do I know that? And I remember even thinking, like, how do I know that? And I just felt really much wiser than like I should be, like at that age. And I just had this strange way of like connecting with others. And I just been thinking, like, how did I get here? And then I thought, like, well, what does that even mean? And I'd like, have these bigger questions and ask things like that to my mom. And she'd just be like, I don't know. Like, she didn't know what to do with me. And I just felt like I was like an alien or something on the planet. Like, how did I get here?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that feeling too, because
Yeah.
we go through this amnesia thing. At some point, we start being more conscious and having memories. And yeah, I remember thinking that sometimes. I don't think I talked to many people about it. I don't think I asked my parents, but just being like, wait, what is all of this? Like, how did I get here? And it's taken a long time to answer those questions, and we don't even really know for sure. But yeah. When did you discover some of your gifts? Was it just intuition? Did you have premonitions, dreams? Was it channeling abilities? Did you ever see things that other people didn't see?
It started was highly empathic. So I was absorbing other people's energy and feeling them and not really understanding what that was. So that kind of started, and that was going on for many years. And in my teens, I started having visions and seeing beings, and then also just just becoming more and more sensitive. And then during that time, I had an out of body experience that was really, I was in my body, but then I was also outside of my body at the same time. And I could see myself, and I was probably about like 30 feet above my body. And then I remember being like, wow, I had this ultimate wisdom. It was like completely blissful, loving, unconditional love place, that all knowing. And then immediately as like I became conscious of it, I was back in my body. And I remember at that time, there was some stuff going on religiously in our home, and I was really afraid to tell anybody about it. And especially about seeing different beings. And so I was becoming quite fearful of talking about it. And so I kept it hidden until really, I moved far away from my family in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I was kind of exploring that more and more, and my abilities were growing and growing. And then I started becoming more confident, about talking about it to others. But I still have, a little bit of apprehension around some family members due to my religious upbringing. And so, yeah. And then with time, I was seeing the beings for a while, the angels, and then different ascended masters started coming to me, and I couldn't hear them. I could only see them. And then over the years, as I developed my skills, I've started to, now I hear them. And so that's much more helpful than just seeing them. So, because for a while it was a little scary for me, because I was like, I don't understand. Like, why are you here? Why can I see you? And things like that. But it
Yeah.
took a lot of growth to be able to actually hear them.
And when you see them, are your eyes open, or is it when your eyes are closed in meditation?
Both, both.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you finally got to ask them, like, why are you here? And you started hearing the answers, what did they say?
A lot of the information that would come to me would be usually like I would have, there was something they wanted me to do or something. And so like I had a task almost, and I was like, okay, well, go do this. And I was like, well, I don't want to go do that, and not at this time, or, it was inconvenient. Like I had something else to do. And I was like, well, you need to go to this place. You really need to be at this place. And then the feeling, I would get this feeling and then it wouldn't go away. So I'd be like, okay, I got to go do this thing just to see what happens. And then I would go, and a lot of times there would be someone that needed help or something there was there for me, a person or some information or something there that would really help me out. And it was usually really profound experiences. So I started to trust that guidance more and more when things would come up. But it was pretty sparingly in the beginning. It was 3 times a year, something like that might happen. And then it started happening like once a month. And now it's, every day I've really surrendered into that and trusting that guidance fully. So it's a day-to-day thing where I'm like, okay, what is it that I need to do? Where do I need to go? And I surrender into that with my divine self and my connection with God and the divine and the ascended masters, right? So it's really been a journey of trusting that wisdom and then allowing it to slowly come into my life. And as I done that, my life got more and more beautiful and more amazing things started to happen. But it took me a really long time to trust that because I grew up in a deeply religious household where things like that might be considered, demonic, or you're listening to these other spirits or things like that. And that it could lead you down a path of, doing destructive things or something. But it's been, my experience has been completely the opposite. It's been like, whoa, my life just got it really expansive, or that was amazing, or someone really needed my help, or I needed help and they gave me exactly what I needed. So it's always been really beautiful and profound. And so it's been a long journey of learning to trust that. And, I was shamed there's a lot of shame in my life growing up around, because I didn't believe the same as my parents and their religious beliefs. And so I was considered worldly and like a bad person or called evil because I didn't believe the same as them. And so it was really, I had to go on this journey of like finding to be okay with myself and the gifts that I have and that were unfolding.
Yeah, that's really hard. Yeah. Were there books that you found, people that you found, yoga, meditation? How did you start feeling less alone and like you could talk to some people about it?
It's definitely been a gradual process. So in my, teens and early 20s, I really was, into Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer. I really was more into the Buddhist philosophy and things like that. And then I really was quite afraid of anything that had to do with God or Jesus for a period of time, because of just religious upbringing. And so that kind of stayed. I did go in the Course in Miracles. I was doing that for a while. And then I just had to gradually kind of open up. And then I started seeing angels. And so the angelic visions started coming to me and they started visiting me and giving me certain guidance. And so that's when I started to learn to trust that it's okay to have a different experience of God than, say, certain religions do, that I could have a deeper understanding. And all around that same time, I started having astral traveling and leaving my body. I've had lots of out of body experiences. And so those were kind of teaching me through my own experience, what God, that bigger picture, that God space actually is, the essence of the divine, and that it can be much more beautiful than kind of the religious upbringing version of God that I had. And so I stopped becoming so afraid of that. And then with that, I've, have the connections with like Jesus and God and things like that. I can hear and see and speak and experience those things now. But it's really been that process of like slowly learning to trust that.
Yeah. And how do you cope now? And how do you relate to being an empath? Do you have tools that you use, or what do you do when you get flooded with information or other people's emotions?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I have, it's been many years of trying to figure that out, but the thing that has been kind of the catalyst for me really becoming stronger in my own energy has been what's the key to it. So at first I started doing like protective kind of things, and that it almost didn't feel right to me, like it, or it was too exhausting to kind of work on protective because I was like, I'm much stronger than that. I shouldn't have to protect myself so much. So over the years, I just really like to release a lot of things. So I use tool like EFT tapping. That's a huge one for me because it's so easy to use, like in the now. I have a daily meditation practice. And then also I use the Luminous Method where I just really connecting so much with my inner divinity every day. And the more that I focus on that and have that become my frequency, the stronger I feel. I can handle things so much easier than I used to. I don't have to do all the clearing that I used to have to do, is by really having a dedicated practice to that and just really shining my light as bright as possible always. And so other people's heavier energies can't affect me as much as they used to. And also just like really a daily practice of like learning to say like, I don't want to go there, or I don't want to do that, and so I won't. Having better boundaries, because I used to not have, I wasn't so good with that. I would do things to please others. And so now I stopped doing that as much. And that's really helped as well.
Mhm. Tell us about the Luminous Method.
The Luminous Method, that was divinely guided to me. I had been into manifestation and spirituality and meditation for many years. And I had done the usual law of attraction stuff about and trying to attract different things in my life. And I had a lot of success and stuff. And then there were also certain things where I wasn't getting the same success. So I'd be like, well, I'm doing the same thing as I did with these other things where I had success with manifestation. But I was finding like these other things I wasn't. And so I was like, well, what's missing here? There's like a missing piece, right? And I was guided to write a book about the Luminous Method and how to do it. And, during that time when I was guided to write it, I started practicing it as well. And as soon as I started practicing this Luminous Method, I saw rapid changes. And so it's just this daily process. It's very simple. It's just, really connecting with the divinity within you and that energy, that light that you are, and realizing that you're fully supported in that energy, and then aligning with the energetic frequency that you actually want. And I think the key piece with Luminous Method is understanding that all those frequencies are always within us, and it's a matter of tuning into them. So it's not about necessarily trying to create something. It's more about being the energy of something and being the energy and tuning into those frequencies on a daily basis. It's like creating new neural pathways of an energy in your body, in your nervous system. And by doing that, you change your reality around you. And so that's really what the process is about. It's just aligning with what you really already are inside. And I've found that this method it really helped me because it took away from me from feeling separate from the things I was trying to create. And it took away from me, like, like trying to get the universe to do my bidding. It turned the power back into me and realizing that I'm one with the universe. I'm one with all of creation, and all those things were already within me. And by tuning into that energetic space and finding out that's actually what I wanted, it wasn't the manifestation. It wasn't the thing that I actually wanted. It was that feeling that I wanted. And then by doing that, it's like unleashing your superpower by like, tuning into that space. And then all of a sudden things around you rearrange themselves and then they automatically show up for you. And it's removed that like constant chase of trying to get something or find that thing, because that thing that we're all looking for is actually inside of us the whole time, that treasure. I
Mm.
don't know if I'm sure most people on the spiritual journey have all felt that. It's like you're looking for something and you just can't quite figure it out, and then realizing it's actually all inside of you.
Mm. Yeah, I remember I invited you to be a guest teacher in one of my women's groups, and you led a guided meditation for us. And I somehow was able to put like the guided meditation on my phone around that time. Must have been 2019. And I was listening to that every time I got into the car, it would like start playing. And at one point, one of the things I started tuning into the frequency of was just sunsets. Like I want to see sunsets every day. I wanted that bright orange sun. I wanted to see it go beneath the water. I wanted to feel what the ocean waves felt like watching sunsets. And lo and behold, within, I don't know, it was August 2020 was when I got a one-way ticket to Hawaii and wasn't even planning to stay that long. Maybe I was planning to stay about a month to stay with a friend. And the day I was leaving was the day that a lot of fires broke out where I live in Northern California. And my partner, not only were there people we knew that suddenly needed a house to stay and live in, but my partner wanted to come join me because it was really smoky where we lived. So he was very quickly and easily able to find someone to stay and rent our home. And because of the pandemic, all the Airbnbs were on pause, and there were lots of places to rent in Hawaii. And so it was like kind of quickly, we suddenly had a place to live in Hawaii. And it was this kind of month to month agreement. And we ended up staying 8 months. And it was just like totally not planned, totally not expected. And just every day I was watching sunsets and feeling that water. And it was just magical. But I think that's part of why it all came together.
Came together. Oh yeah, beautiful. I love that. That's one of my favorite things, I think, to use the method for is the experiences, not just the things. Like I know a lot of people in the
Mhm.
manifestation world are really like focused on, say, a money, a home or a car or something. And I mean, those are fun and those are beautiful, obviously, but it's like really magical when you try to manifest an experience, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and money is a thing that a lot of people try to work on with this. And that's what we decided to lead a masterclass on because
Definitely.
I think there are so many people that may be struggling or feeling like I can only earn this much money or I'm stuck and I know, yeah, do you want to share anything about just how it has helped you with money in your life? And I know you've experienced some miracles, but yeah, how it has
Yeah.
worked for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think, in the beginning when I would try to manifest money, it just didn't feel very fun. It almost felt like a chore. And really using this method, it became more fun and magical, like kind of breaking down, like, well, what is it behind money? It's not like, let's say like $100,000. It's not the actual $100,000 you want because technically you can't do anything with the cash. I mean, you could burn it if you really wanted to. But the essence of what you're doing with that. And so kind of diving into that and exploring that and the frequency of that energetic frequency of it is where the fun is. It's like, well, what would you do with that 100,000? How would you spend it? What would you be doing with it? Would you be hiring more help in your house so you're feeling more supported, or maybe you need to upgrade something, or you've got some extra bills that you want to pay down, or maybe you want to invest some money in your business. Like there's different things you can do, and going into the energetics of it and then exploring that. And so using that method really changed things for my manifestation. Like instead of like, I want 50,000 and I want to show up now and I'm going to say it out loud and then forget about it. And then which sometimes can totally show up for you. But if it's not, it's just because you're not energetically aligned with it. And so I think for myself, it becomes more fun because if you tune into the energy of what you want every day, you start feeling better. Like you're like, I actually really enjoy this. This is what I would do with that money and how life would be. And so you're actually starting to feel better just by doing the process. And then the outcome of that is that then the money will show up. And a lot of times it'll show up in different ways. Like, I remember I wanted a certain amount of money coming in every month and I didn't want to have to work hard for it. And so I manifested a giant lump sum that I invested, and then it gave me, the monthly income, the residual or the residuals I was getting were for that amount. And I was like, after going and talking to my advisor, I was like, well, I didn't think that was what. And he's like, well, this is what you can pull out every month. This is what blah, blah, blah. You can take it out. And I was like, whoa, it's, the 7,000 a month I wanted, it was like, whoa, like the universe, like I just felt the energy of what I wanted, but it came up with a plan that I couldn't have figured out on my own. And so, things like that.
Wow. So magical. Yeah. And I don't know, is there anything like we're going to talk more about how it all works so in the webinar and just like helping people get aligned with their desires. Is there anything people can do right now just like starting to shift their frequency? Let's say someone listening is in a really difficult place. And actually maybe I'll bring this up because I've talked to a few clients recently they really want they know that they have gifts to share, but they're struggling to find ways to find alignment in their work. And so like what would a person like that do?
I would say, how is it that you want to feel? Like that would be the first question. How is it you want to feel in your work? That's the first question. And then just, journal on that, write down the actual feelings. Like, don't worry about how or what will make you feel that way. Like, literally, just how is it that you want to feel? And then start practicing like an intentional practice of tuning into that feeling and just, wow, this is how I feel in my work. Like, this is amazing. Oh, I feel so lucky and grateful that I get to feel this way in my work. And then actually really tuning in and feeling it. And I know sometimes it can feel difficult to align with something that you don't technically feel, but the way to create is within. And so by aligning with that feeling of those feelings that you want to feel in your work will create that scenario for you on the outside. And so by tuning into that every day and trying to stay tuned into that frequency as much as possible, creating that as a dominant frequency, I think that something will show up. Maybe it's someone will say something and give you a new idea, or a new client will come in and really refresh your whole business and whatever it is. And then you'll be like, wow, I actually feel that way. And then you'll catch yourself like, wait, I was manifested that, but it was just by practicing that core feeling that you really want and being intentional with it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask you about this illness that you had. So soon after we were finished our work together, you were having a lot of mystery symptoms and going to a lot of doctors and feeling like you had to put your work on pause for years. So what happened and where are you at now with it?
That was really the most difficult thing I've had to go through by far. I had been guided to write the book and create, the Luminous Method and all that. And I had literally finished the book and it was with my editor, and I had a book launch planned in two different places. And I just got, violently ill for, a good 3 solid years, bedridden. And like, it turned out I couldn't solve it. And so that was really challenging. I had been working with you and I was like, I can't go on. Like I thought I was going to get better, and I didn't. It turned out to be Lyme disease. But prior to that, I did obviously a lot of healing work internally during that time, letting go of a lot of beliefs and fears and things I had. But I realized, I was like, what is going on? Like I didn't feel supported because there were, times that I couldn't, the different specialists I was seeing and everywhere I was going. And they just were like, all the tests are coming back fine. And I'm like, I am seriously sick. I'm not fine. And so, you know, for a while, family and friends were around. But then, it's like, I'm not getting better. There's no real, like no one's figuring out what it is. And so people just kind of started falling away in life. And I felt really unsupported and I was really afraid. And I just was thinking like, gosh, I feel so unsupported and so afraid. And I was like, oh, okay, well, why don't I start feeling supported and feeling like everything is going to be okay? Because I've been consistently holding this vibration of feeling unsupported and really afraid with my illness. And so that's what I did is I started using the Luminous Method to do that. And so I started tuning into that feeling supported and understood and validated. And I read an article about a week later about a woman who went through mysterious symptoms and it sounded like me. And there was a local doctor that helped her and did a test for her and it was for Lyme disease. And so I went and I booked an appointment with her and this doctor. And when I was in the office, I had to cry because she's like, oh yeah, you got it. We'll run the blood test for you, but definitely have. I'm almost 90% sure you have it. And after the results came back, she was like, I hear you. I see you. I validate you. And this doctor had it herself. So she's like, I know what you're going through. I know what you've been through and the doctors haven't been listening to you, but we're here and we're supporting you. And then even the receptionist, she was in the same situation. She had Lyme and, didn't know. And she's like, we're here to support you and, or validate you and you're not crazy and all that. And I was like, wow, I've just had to change my vibration again. Like I didn't realize that was what was going on. And so, using the Luminous Method for that really helped me get my, like, my diagnosis, things like that we don't think of that you could use it on. And so it's been very powerful. And during that time, my, my abilities also have heightened. So my illness was definitely a deep purge and a really deep growth period for myself. And I think letting go of a lot of fear and, getting better with boundaries and
Yeah. And I think when those hard things happen in our life, it's not necessarily like, oh, I failed at my manifesting. It's like your soul probably chose something on a higher level to help you grow and to come into a more evolved place. And then from there to be able to, yeah, create beauty in life again. Is that kind of your perspective, thinking about like soul choices and karma and like, because I think manifesting can get hard on yourself if you're feeling like you're messing it up. But sometimes from a higher perspective, it's not like that at all.
Absolutely. I think that was probably the biggest challenge I had with it for those first 3 years. I felt like a fraud. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I like teach this stuff and here I'm like, I can't get out of this illness I'm in. And like, I just felt like, wow, I collapsed. It was a huge dark night of the soul, that's for sure. And I think I had to learn that you don't create everything necessarily. Like there are certain experiences in our lives that we're going to go through. And I fully believe that about my illness and what happened. It was definitely karmic and something my soul wanted me to go through. And I think the same with other people who are struggling with that. I want them to know that you don't manifest everything. I think that's something in the manifestation world they kind of tout that and so you can feel that. Like I felt shame. Like I was ashamed that I was so sick for so long. And that wasn't good for me. That was like and for someone, or they're having more challenges in their life than somebody else, and they can feel like, wow, like I'm I'm doing something wrong here, or I just don't believe that. Everybody's paths are different. And, sometimes you can manifest an illness because for certain reasons, but there's other times not. And like, loss of loved ones and, or life just going in a totally different direction. Sometimes is your soul guiding you in a totally different direction. It's not that you manifested it. It's just that it was time for something new and, certain lessons. So I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned through my whole illness is that to have more compassion for ourselves, and that some of the stuff we just did not create, and we don't need to take responsibility for that, and to have a lot more self-love and compassion for ourselves and our journeys.
It's so important. Thank you for touching on all of that. Yeah, I'm curious too, just with the Lymes, what did treatment look like? If you want to share about any of your symptoms, like when did things start getting better? What kind of treatments were you doing?
I so my main symptoms were having vertigo, severe vertigo, and chronic, and dizziness, balance issues, a lot of neurological problems, and burning pain throughout the eyes, face, and head, lots of head, migraine, pain, and just severe fatigue. Bit of vision problems. It's a lot of symptoms, but that's pretty common with people with Lyme. But it had gone into the stiff neck, really stiff neck for a long time. And so for that, I didn't know what it was for a really long time. And I ended up going, kind of more the natural route. In the beginning, I did go and, see some specialists and allopathic medicine, and they couldn't find any answers anyway. So it was like I just naturally went to the naturopathic route, and lots of them still didn't find that. They did a few like parasite treatment kind of things that actually did show a bit of improvement, which the parasite treatments do tend to help people with Lyme because that's part of the Lyme illness. So then after that, I end up going and doing, it's called the Booner protocol, and it's very common, a popular one in the Lyme community, very effective. I couldn't do the antibiotics because I'd had it for so long. For one, it had gone spread throughout my body. It would have been too hard on my system. And also I had an allergy to one of the main ones they use three at the same time. So I couldn't do the antibiotics. So I went the natural antibiotic route, and that's the Booner protocol. And I still take those daily just to help prevent, because it's still in my system, but you just don't want it to get out of control. And so, yeah, and then the parasite treatments as well. So that's probably been about like 50% of the healing. And then the other part I've used EFT tapping. I've gone through and tapped through a lot of stuff. I've done something called the pure method, which is basically tuning into the energetics behind what's in there and allowing the healing to take place, releasing those energies and emotions that are in the body that hold on to the kind of frequency of that illness. And then I also did a program from Brandy Gilmore, and she's amazing. She teaches how to any type of illness and how to really change. It's very similar to the Luminous Method actually, but it's very specific to the health issues, and it's really changing that energetic frequency to what you want. And so a lot of people with Lyme disease, it's a frequency of something bad's happened to you, that life's hard and life's a struggle, and kind of changing that energy into something else, and that like mainly something bad has happened to you, and so changing that energy into something they actually want, and getting out of that energetic pattern, and getting out of that. And those are the things that actually help me.
Yeah. So hard to go through that. And yeah, I'm so glad that you found out what it was to have
Me
the
too.
support.
Yeah.
Um, Also during this time you manifested love. Can you tell us about like your relationship story and how that all came together?
Yeah, that's amazing. So for me, I personally was, I had been divorced and was single and really enjoying life. And, I was a single mom too. So I was busy, but I was like working on something and I was kind of working on this book and I just didn't really want to date at that time. And I just thought, no, this is, I'm really quite busy. And I was feeling good at the time physically. But then I got sick. And then for that first year, I was so sick and distraught. And I was like, I'd had it. It was like about that full year, I was in bed all the time, like constantly. And so I was meditating a lot and I was like working on like manifesting the love that I wanted. And so I was using the Luminous Method for it, but I was sick in bed. So I was like, it had been hard to meet someone, but I was like, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm just going to keep tuning into the energy that I want. And I had a vision, like this vision of what I wanted. Couldn't see what, specifically of the type of person I wanted, but I just kept saying that I wanted it to be really magical and I wanted to be my forever partner. And would be willing to move. He didn't want to just stay in Victoria. He wanted to live other places and kind of have a dual lifestyle. And I, left the list very small of the things that, I want. And he had to be physically active like I, was at the time. And so I just kept visualizing that. I was like, well, there's nothing else to do. And that the key word was that it was magical. And I just kept focusing on that magical, magical. And then I was out, I started getting a bit better at that time. I didn't know I had Lyme yet, but I met him and I went to go get a bicycle. I was like, I'm going to get a bicycle. I'm going to prove to the universe that I'm getting better and I'm going to, so I went to a bike shop and got this bicycle and I met him there at the bike shop. And I don't know, he just asked to hang out as friends. And I was like, sure, we can hang out, but I just want you to know I'm quite sick and I haven't been out of the house much. Right. And, he's like, yeah, okay, no problem. We'll just go for a walk. And we went for a walk and it was like, this beautiful thing. And then we're just friends for a bit. And then I just started noticing all these like kind of magical synchronistic things and angel numbers and, like a certain angel book that has special memory, special meaning to me showed up. He's like, hey, I got this book. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, like, and then I was like, I don't know. And then I had some plans to go traveling up the island and go to this special place called Tofino. And I was going to I had booked a beach place, not a beach place, a house on the beach. And I was like, I'm going to go there for the long weekend. And then I literally heard, my guides told me I had to invite him. And I'm like, what? I don't know him hardly and I don't want to give him a wrong impression. Like I'm there alone and he's going to come and I don't want him to think I want to like date or something, and I was like, and they just were pressuring me. They kept saying, you got to invite him, got to invite him. And then I'm like, okay, well, so I asked him if he wanted to go and he said yes. And then they told me to book this other place. And I said, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to book this place. It's a long weekend. You have to book like 6 months in advance and it's in 2 weeks that I'm leaving. And I've already called and that there's none available. And they said, you call now. And I'm like, and they just wouldn't leave me alone about it. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. And then I called and they were like, we just had a cancellation. And I'm like, are you serious? Yeah.
And when you refer to they, that's like your guides, angels.
Yeah, my guides. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I invited him and yeah. And then we realized there was just more going on. And I was like, okay. And it was like magic. Like literally everything in my relationship with him, especially in the beginning, was just really magical. And I was like, wow, I manifested that. Like I literally wanted like this magic connection. And he was the one that told me the first time he came over to visit, he was like, I think you have Lyme disease. I know somebody that has Lyme. Like I've been around them and I think that's what you have, your symptoms. And I didn't get tested for another year for that. So, but I think he knew as well. It was kind of quite profound. And anyway, on that journey, I was still quite sick and didn't know what it was. And, we fell in love and I was like, wow, I didn't think I could have bring love into my life while I was really sick. And so to me, it was even a more beautiful dimension to love because he loved me and I was not in the best state. And he's the one that helped kind of get me through all that and pull me out to the other side. So it's really caused this really deep intimacy that I don't think we could have got from, not having gone through something so hard. So beautiful. He's divinely guided, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
we're now married. So
Wow. It's magical. Yeah. You called it in.
yeah.
Wow. I'm curious what your spiritual practice looks like in your life right now. Like, are you doing the luminous method every day? What does it look like for you to just have a spiritual practice in your life?
I think over the years, I have simplified my spiritual practice. I think I used to feel like I had to do all these things and, oh, I didn't get time to do that, and now I've really kind of let myself off the hook. I definitely tried to tune into, doing the luminous method, tuning into the frequencies that I would want, every day. I used to do it like for 30 minutes every day. And now what I do is I do like 10 minutes in the morning, try to hold that consistently throughout the day when I'm doing whatever, like anything that I'm doing, like driving or, any tasks, and try to hold on to that vibration. And then I'll take another 10 minutes again a little later in the day. And I think what I've done is I've taken out of like having to sit and actually do a meditation. So I sit and or I just, whatever I'm doing, and I just hold the frequency without even having to close my eyes and just really being that and trying to be the meditation all day, if that makes sense. And I think that feels better to me than me having to like, okay, I got to sit down and do a practice every day. It's because I want to become that meditation and become that energy. And that's how I'm doing it now. Like I'm being it as opposed to like having a practice. It's really grown and changed. And I practice things like, I am the presence of God in action, and that, stating that and shining that light and connecting with that light within me and just doing that as much as possible. And I'm finding that it's making life flow so much better by staying in it consistently, as opposed to, I was realizing that I was, maybe being in that beautiful state in my meditation, and then the rest of the day wasn't as much. And so I'm trying to practice, trying to keep pulling that through.
Mhm.
I do breath work, definitely not every day, but I definitely do a breath work practice and asking kind of moment to moment where I'm guided to go, what I'm guided to do or say. I try to stay in that state all the time. And obviously there are times I'm human and I have moments where I'm flustered or I forget, or we just moved and, the past few days I've been like, I'm like, I gotta ground and sit down and like, do things to kind of reconnect because I got overly busy with the 3D stuff. But that's kind of how I do my practice. It's definitely grown and changed over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. I think letting it be organic is really helpful. And it can get so boring if it's exactly the same year after year. Yeah.
Yeah. Or rigid. Yeah.
I like how you're integrating it more into your life and just remembering throughout the day to be in the frequency you want. How would you say you're being asked to grow right now? What is your spiritual growth edge?
I would say is really 100% able to like just communicate and express to others kind of some of these gifts that I have and the wisdom that is coming forth, and doing it more publicly, or I've done it quite privately with, people in my circle, and letting go of the fear of my family and their religious beliefs, and really embracing that and embracing who I am, because I think I've been really holding it close and dear, and I need to really go out with confidence and share with the people that really need to hear it.
Mhm. Yes.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what scares you about it? Is it like the fear of judgment or making mistakes? Or what do you think it is that feels that's the growth?
For me, it would be kind of the shame that, my family has, that I've felt from that. Like, I know some people can like not agree necessarily. Not everybody agrees with things, or they can be afraid of certain people with certain abilities. I know I was afraid of what I had for a while, or what I was experiencing, and I think that's been, because like, what is that? Is that helpful? Are they, of the light? Or, I think that's what it is. It's the fear that people might have. It's a lot of
Yeah.
people and they can be judgmental of others with abilities, like, and essentially they're all around everybody. It's just a matter of really being able to tune in and to listen or see those things, right? It's not that any of us are special. It's just a matter of, to me, it's like turning on the radio station. It's like I've turned each of these people can turn into different wavelengths, and hear these different things. And that's really what it's all about.
I'm so glad you're back to doing your work and sharing it. Do you want to share? So we have the webinar coming up, or the master class, and what else are you working on? What's going to be available for people?
I'm actually just finishing up the Luminous Method course, like an online course. It's that will be available for others, and then I'm finishing up, kind of going through my manuscript again on my book. So it's been 5 years, I think. So I'm kind of going through it again. I've learned some more things, so I'm changing it around. So also I'll be having my book ready to go, and also any coaching. I'm open for any coaching that anybody wants. And a new offering I'm thinking about doing is working with people who want to really learn the path of mastery and how to do that. Really mentor them through that, like a longer coaching package for people who want that mentorship of how to do that.
Beautiful. Well, we'll include your website link and people can learn more. Any closing words? Anything we want to leave people with today? Thinking about how they can take this into their life.
Yeah, just knowing that the energy and the power is within you, and really illuminating that your divine self, and remembering who you ultimately are, and walking through life in that higher self, in that higher state, and realizing that all the answers are within, and that the search is you're searching for yourself and that divine light that's within you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today, Jessica. Grateful to have had this time with you, and I'm so grateful to be collaborating with you.
Me too. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you liked it, share it with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. You can also follow along on Instagram at Meredith Rom, and sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com to be sure to receive all the new and inspiring content. Thanks again for being here. It's an honor to walk this path with you.